we're not able to have sort of the well-balanced dialogue that that we're talking about wanting to have. However, the initiative process in California is what it is. For the price of a few signatures, you can get on the ballot. Anybody here can get on the ballot. We could have the Sinopec could come and put something on the ballot in California to compel the sale of Union Oil properties to Sinopec. It's absolutely legal. It could happen today. So our initiative process, which by the way was created by a governor named Hiram Johnson, specifically to counteract the undue influence of a company called the Standard Oil Company of California, now known as Chevron.
I didn't know I was going to get whacked for that one. It seems a little bit of a stretch, but okay, I'll go.
Well, the history is what the history is. And then actually, if you go to the Hiram Johnson display at the governor's,
like uncle.
at the governor's museum. Well, no, the good thing is that now Hiram's long dead. It's 100 years, and
that's what I'm thinking.
If you go to his museum in Sacramento, it's sponsored by Chevron, so they're making up for it.
Thank you.
So at the end of the day, what we really need is a way for the truth of the matter is that the only big changes that we've had in energy policy have been as a result of regulation, and there's been very little voluntary change, and so we as a society always have to be making a choice of, okay, are we ready to make this next step? Are we ready to regulate the emissions of carbon? We haven't. We have not in the United States been willing to do that to date. We are not now, as far as I can read the tea leaves, we are not willing to do this in the United States at present. Part of the reason for that is, frankly, well-funded and organized campaigns led not just by the oil companies, but by all kinds of concerns that don't want to see that happen. So, it really does come back to, while I say it should not be left to the people to vote up or down on a particular bit of energy policy, it really does come down to the people to say, you know what, I've never called my senator's office before, but I'm going to call. And I'm going to say, support Waxman-Markey, or I'm going to support cap and trade, or whatever it is. It really does, because I'll tell you, they actually do pay attention to that stuff. Probably the best thing you can do is write a letter, like an old school, not an email, because they don't pay as much attention to that. But if you get an 8.5 by 10 piece of paper and write a letter to your congressperson and follow it up with a phone call, they'll call you back, and you'll get a meeting with your congressperson. That's really what it's going to take.
Or one of the Coro fellows working for you.
There you go. Wasn't that who all piled that again?
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I forgot to mention. I mentioned we had representatives here from Japan and Germany. We also representatives here from the Canadian consulate. And in Ontario, Canada, they just this past month reconfigured their policies to encourage feed-in tariffs, to try to get individual consumers in the marketplace to steer and innovate and incorporate innovations into the delivery of energy. Whether you want to talk about that for a second, one more round of questions before we go to the audience. What's the best mechanism that you know of and are you employing to change behavior to help encourage and speed up adaptation to a new energy environment?
I think price parity. It's a very simple concept where everybody gets the same amount of money for the same amount of energy. So if you have a home or business and you want to put solar panels on that home or business, and you want to sell that solar energy into the grid, you get exactly the same amount of money per kilowatt generated as the electricity company gets on a retail basis. So it can even be on a wholesale basis. I think the same is true for fuel. We have a very, very, very slanted subsidy mechanism for increasing and maintaining the supply of traditional fossil energy in the U.S. And that's through state and government mandates, that's through land grants, that's through tax gifts, that's through a very complicated system. But even even the larger laboratories that have studied this in the United States agree that if we were to create price parity across the board, green energy would be able to be competitive with fossil energy in a very short period of time. We're talking 24 to 48 months. So you've kind of got two sides. You've got the stick and you've got the carrot. The stick is cap and trade. We're going to disincentivize you from creating carbon, and you're actually going to get penalized for that. And over here, somebody else is perhaps going to be a little better off because they don't produce as much carbon. But there's also the carrot in that if you create price parity, if you create a market in which individuals or small groups or small companies are allowed to feed in at the same rate, at the same wholesale rate as a large company, you create competitiveness. And we stand for a free market economy that yet, if you really study the dynamics of energy, it is not based in free market economics. It is based in a very one-sided way of doing things that is a protectionist system. And whether it's through the stick or through the carrot, whether we do cap and trade, whether we do price parity, whether we do net metering, which allows you and me to sell electricity onto the grid just as a big company can sell electricity, or whether we do something extremely bold and maybe to some people brash, like Prop 87, we will not move from this point unless we do something. And the U.S. is sliding rapidly behind every other country in the world, especially every other industrialized country. Our market, our economy is a reflection of our inability to mobilize around energy policy. We do not have an economic crisis. We have an energy crisis masked as an economic debt crisis. We spend $1 trillion a year as a country. California is one of the largest spenders on oil and gas, not from this state. So it follows that you look around and you go, how come we don't have health care? How come our roads are falling apart? Where's the power in government that we want it to have? Well, when you're leaking the majority of your money out of your economy, you've got to shore that problem up before you deal with the other problems. So today's issue, clean air, actually underneath clean air is clean energy. And underneath that is a big question for all of us. Are we going to take some bold steps in our personal lives? Are we going to encourage both environmentalists and the oil companies? It's going to be scary. There's going to be stuff that people don't like on each side. But if we don't move forward, if we don't start passing some of this legislation, like the Waxman legislation, like the legislation that we should have in place to mandate biofuels in school buses. And Rebecca is in charge of our nonprofit organization. A big part of it is taking dirty diesel out of school buses and putting biodiesel made from non-food crops into school buses. Because kids breathe that every day, and it's an easy way to get to sustainability, and we can agree on it. But it's going to take bold steps. And right now, we're sitting around very timid. And that timidity is going to come back to bite us as a nation. And it already is biting us as a state. Has it ever occurred to you that California may be bankrupt because of our inability to activate around Enron shutting off power plants and to create sustainable sources of energy instead of allowing one company to dominate our entire energy matrix and shut it off and shut it on and shut it off at will? That is the danger of a monopolized, centralized energy market that is within a protectionist economy. In a free market economy, you would not have that.